When you pull ice from the bottom drawer of an upright freezer, you expect frost on the plastic bags of peas and frozen soup containers. You don't expect to find a yellow, hand-knitted baby Bootie frozen inside a plastic ice cube tray, coated in a half-inch crust of white rime. I stood there by the kitchen counter in our rental just outside Cochrane, staring at it. The kitchen was cold because the baseboard heaters in that old farmhouse never kept up when the wind came off the bay. It was late January. My husband, Dan, had taken a 3-week shift on the maintenance crew at the Detour Lake mine site, 4 hours north on the ice road. He'd left a week before, leaving me alone with our daughter, Clara, who was barely 10 weeks old. The first couple of weeks were supposed to be about adjusting. That was the phrase the public health nurse used during our 5-minute discharge in Timmins. Just sleep when the baby sleeps, dear. It's an adjustment. Except Clara didn't sleep at night. Like clockwork, she would start screaming at 3:33 a.m. Not fussing, full-throated, red-faced terror. At first, I told myself the house was just old and noisy. Farmhouses settle, pipes knock, and drafts pull through the baseboards. But on the third night Dan was away, when I dragged myself out of bed to go into the nursery, I found marks on the drywall beside her crib. 4 faint, vertical gouges in the cheap latex paint, right at shoulder height. They looked like someone had scraped a set of keys down the wall, or fingernails. I looked at my own hands. My nails were bitten down to the quick, bloody around the cuticles. I figured maybe I'd tripped in the dark the night before and braced myself against the wall without realizing it. When you're sleeping in 20-minute fragments between feedings, your memory gets porous. You drop a spoon on the linoleum and stare at it for 3 minutes because your brain forgets how to tell your arm to bend over and pick it up. The next afternoon, the snow turned heavy. A winter storm warning popped up on my phone, followed by an alert that Highway 652 was closed due to 0 visibility. The isolation wasn't new, but the silence got thicker. I called Telehealth Ontario around 4 o'clock. I told the nurse on the line that I hadn't slept more than an hour a day in almost 2 weeks, that Clara wouldn't stop screaming at night, and that I was finding things out of place. She asked if I had a fever. I said no. She asked if Clara had a fever. I said no. She told me colic peaks at 2 months, suggested a warm bath for the baby, and reminded me to take my prenatal vitamins. She said if I felt overwhelmed, I should have a family member come over. I told her my nearest family was in Sudbury, 5 hours south through a closed highway. She paused, muttered something about staffing shortages, and said to make an appointment with my primary care provider on Monday. It was Friday night. That was the night I found the Bootie in the freezer. I pulled it out and turned it over. It was Clara's. It was rock hard. I tried to remember carrying it downstairs. I tried to remember walking over to the fridge, opening the freezer drawer, and setting it in the ice tray. Nothing, just an empty gap between putting Clara down at 8 and waking up on the living room sofa at 11. I went upstairs with my phone in my hand, intending to check the nursery. My thumb brushed the photo gallery app, and I saw 3 video files at the top of the feed that I hadn't recorded, or thought I hadn't. thumbnails were almost completely black. I tapped the first one. It was 20 seconds long. The camera was shaking, pointed down at the floorboards in the hallway outside Clara's room. In the audio, you could hear Clara crying in the background, muffled. But right beside the microphone, there was heavy, erratic breathing. And then a voice, my voice, completely flat and monotone, whispering, "If you don't stay in the corner, I'm going to lock the latch." There was no latch on the nursery door. The second video was taken from inside my own wardrobe. Just blackness and the sound of fingernails dragging slowly against wood. The room didn't feel cold anymore. It felt hollowed out. I sat on the edge of my bed and looked at the mirror over the dresser. The woman looking back didn't look tired. She looked like a stranger wearing my clothes, someone who had been doing things in the dark while I thought I was asleep. I don't remember much after that. I know our neighbor, a retired farmer named Roy who plows our lane with his tractor, stopped by on Tuesday because he noticed our driveway hadn't been cleared and the porch light had been left on through 3 days of storm. He found Clara in her crib. She was dehydrated and had a severe diaper rash, but she was alive. The heater in her room had been turned all the way up to high, and the door was barricaded from the outside with the laundry hamper and 3 dining room chairs. They found me sitting on the basement stairs in the dark, holding a kitchen knife in one hand and an unplugged baby monitor in the other. I spent 4 months in the psychiatric unit in North Bay. The doctors called it a severe postpartum psychotic break triggered by acute sleep deprivation and undiagnosed clinical depression. They told me that during blackouts, the brain dissociates completely, acting on subconscious terrors. Dan and I moved back south after I was discharged. We live in a townhouse in Barrie now. Clara is 4, healthy and loud. The doctors say the barricade, the scratches, the videos, it was all just me, trapped in a waking nightmare my own mind built. And most days, I accept that. Except sometimes, I think about the 3rd video on my phone, the one the police cataloged before deleting it. It was taken from inside the crib, looking up through the wooden slats toward the doorway. The hallway light was on. I was standing in the doorframe, motionless, holding Clara against my chest. And from behind the camera, down inside the empty crib, something let out a low, raspy